Come correct or don't come at all.
This is the Hartzog Hustle Podcast.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And we're talking about the hustle, strategy, and mindset you need to win in the areas of your finance, your purpose, and your future.
Know what I'm saying?
If you have heart and you want to learn how to activate the power of your hustle, then this is the podcast for you, baby. For you, baby.
Congratulations.
And now, your hosts, Anthony and Janilka Hartzog.
This is how it should be done.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Hartzog Hustle Podcast. My name is Anthony, and I'm joined here by Mrs. Hartzog Hustle.
Hello, everyone.
What's up? What's up? Today we'll be talking about relationships with money, and this conversation is a very deep one because your mother was in town recently, and we were just talking about the differences between her growing up and the way we grew up, and also what we're doing in life. So that's why we're talking about it today.
Yep. And we grew up in the same exact building. However, we had a different upbringing when it came to money. Different, I don't know if necessarily different values, but just different thought process and things like that. So let's bring it back all the way to, do you ever have a money conversation, I guess? With parents or family? I don't know. Who has the money conversation with you? Whoever has that.
So my father would have been the one talking about money most of the time that he was around. And he was very stringent on process procedures around, day-to-day management of money. So it's like, here's your allowance. Here's what you do with it. Here's what you shouldn't do with it. Here's how much you get. Here's how you make more money in terms of allowance. And that was kind of like the initial conversations that we had in regards to money growing up. And
so when I think back, I don't even think I got an allowance. I don't really know. I'll have to ask my mother that one. I don't really know that I used to ask for anything. I have no idea. I feel like if I did get an allowance, it was like $5 for the week, $1. Yeah. $1 a day. Which back in the day, you could go to the corner store and get a chip and a quarter water, which is a juice, a little juice. Yep. And that's 50 cents. And you can keep keep the change. Or a bagel with butter would be $1, but that wasn't until high school because I ate breakfast at home.
You taking it way back. I used to do the same things with money too. Like I used to get my allowance, and it was like, all right, well, I know if I got $5 for the week, that's $1 a day, Monday through Friday, and I had to make my money last. So some days I would just only spend 50 cents. Now I got, $4.50 for the whole week. Now I was like, okay, I'm ahead of the game. I didn't spend my money every single day.
But then isn't it weird how $1 used to be of course, when you're a child, your family is mostly providing everything for you. So you just getting like wants. It's not necessarily needs that you have at that time. At least for me, it wasn't necessarily a need. It just was a want. Other people are stopping at the corner store after school. Why am I not? Like, why am I going straight home to have lunch that's made for me?
Yeah, there was kids my age that had like $20 for the week. And it was like, well, I only got $5 and they got $20. And they would still run out they would not have any money at the end of the week. Even though they had 4 times as much money as me, they use up all their money within a couple days.
Right. So I'm thinking back all the way to like elementary and stuff like that. Did you eat breakfast at school? I guess it depends on where I think all states provide breakfast to children at school, right?
Yeah, I had breakfast at school
without a fee, because some of them it depends on like
if you go early enough, they give you breakfast at school.
No, some of them now there's a fee to it.
Today, I don't know what.
But I'm just saying. But maybe back in the day, other states had the same thing.
I used to wake up early enough where I either had breakfast at home or I had breakfast at school. I didn't have to buy breakfast.
Okay, and then lunch. Did you eat lunch at school? Or did you bring your own lunch?
I had lunch at school.
Okay,
you had breakfast at school?
No.
Of course not. I'm not surprised.
I had breakfast at home before leaving, or if I was at the babysitter, I would eat there, and then I brought lunch to school.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then
you never had the little square pizzas?
When I wanted to fit in, but I was bringing like Lunchables and that type of stuff to school.
We couldn't afford Lunchables
because my mother would bring that with me, and send it with me and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a little different, I guess, depending. Like, and that's why school is so important for many kids, because that's where they get their meals. Yeah. If they're not there eating, then at home they may not be getting as much meals, or there's more kids. I'm an only child. Yeah. It's you and 2 younger brothers. Yep. So there's 3 of you guys in there. So that was a big difference there as well.
Yeah, growing up, at least if I didn't want to have if I woke up too late, or I was like, I want to sleep in longer, I would just eat at school. But if I woke up early enough, there was always breakfast in the house. So it really just depends on if I was tired and didn't want to wake up, then I would go to school and just eat breakfast there.
My mother's a teacher. There's no waking up early enough or late enough. It's
that's
you
true.
up, you up.
That's
Get
true.
up
She's
at this time.
She's making you wake up.
Get up at this time. I got a job to the babysitter or whatever the case may be. And then even thinking back to high school now when it comes to that, because mostly I think, how did you spend your money during, like, if you could remember elementary to high school time? I feel like mostly mine was on food. I don't know what else I was buying.
Well, for me, spending money, because I know that it goes back to that same relationship with money. It's like, well, I know that if I wanted to either have enough money to get what I wanted, I had to save money or find a way to make more money. So going back to you said high school?
Anywhere between elementary to high school, do you remember how you spent your money?
Nah.
I remember elementary was corner store for me. So lollipop, maybe, something like that.
I saved a lot of money.
You just buy nothing?
I wasn't buying anything. No.
But you were buying games.
Yeah, but that was like that was like presents and stuff like that.
Okay, so you weren't buying that with your allowance money?
Nah, normally not. I would just save it, and then hopefully I would have enough, and I would say, hey, Mom, can we get this? Or Dad, can we get this? And that was it.
Okay.
But that was more along the lines of, all right, holidays, Christmas, birthday, maybe good grades or something like that. But that was kind of, I was trying to save my money as much as I could.
I don't think I got any money for good grades.
Well, I always had good grades, so I
had good grades too.
It don't sound like it the way you talking.
No, I'm trying to say I don't think my mother like rewarded me with money.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
It was like once in a while though. It wasn't like every single time I got good grades. Like that's the expectation, but it's like, all right, well I did it all these months. Can I get something? It's like, well, we'll give you some more money for allowance or something like that. So
what was happening in my house? I don't know how I was rewarded in that regard.
Well, I knew that eventually it was like, all right, they're going to stop giving me money because money started to slow down because I had two younger brothers. So that's when it was like, well, if you want more money, probably got to work.
And so for me, I never had the thought that I needed to work for money. I don't know what I was thinking, but I definitely was not. I wasn't thinking that. We both grew up in the projects. I always felt like
people may not know what the projects is.
Oh, okay. Well, housing building. Well, how they have housing everywhere, but it looks different everywhere from like East Coast to like Southern states.
So you ever see those juvenile videos in Cash Money No Limit Soldiers?
But they buildings are like three
floors.
three floors. In New York, housing is a system. I don't know how you would explain this.
It's a system.
It's a system for lower income people to access housing, to get apartments and places and stuff like that. And usually the neighborhoods are not good neighborhoods that it's in, or I guess once the housing comes in, the neighborhood becomes bad. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But that's where we grew up. And so the way that my mother had gotten was like through my uncle at the time, years ago. 30-something years ago, my uncle at the time, and that's when she was here for 2 years, here being in America, because she came from Panama, for about 2-3 years at that point, and then she eventually went on to get like her master's and stuff like that to become a teacher. Yeah. But they don't, or they can't kick you out. That's another thing. It's like once you're in, you're in. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what the projects is for the people that may not know.
I didn't know what the projects are. So and we got in just because we were just low income. That was lower income too.
So yeah, we both grew up in the projects, and I never felt like I needed for anything. So I think that's another reason why I didn't have the thing of like I need to save my money or I need to work for my money, because I got what I needed. I got what I wanted, I guess. Yeah. Christmas time, it was a big deal. Dad always gave like the first electronics. I had the first iPad ever. Like all these things I got. So I didn't think I needed money. I don't think I really had any money to spend until I got to high school, really. And I'm like, after school, I'm buying a bagel, or I'm buying, once again, food.
Yeah, a lot of
food being bought.
Revolved around food with you.
A lot of food being bought, even though I had food in the house. But not necessarily like a sneaker or just something like that. Yeah. And which brings me up to like working. When it came to working, my uncle has a store, like if you've been to Manhattan, they have like corner stores or bodegas in the like the first floor of these big buildings. I don't know how else to describe it, where you can buy things. And
commercial buildings.
Like commercial buildings. And so my uncle has worked in there, so we used to go sometimes in the summer and work with him. That was a job. And then like also in New York, summer youth is what they have, which is like ranging from age 16 to 21. Yeah. You get a job during the summer, and I think I worked for FDNY for a little bit. But those were like my first few jobs, but for you, when would you say, and that was like high school, summers. For you, when would you say you got your first few job?
First job was packing bags at Key Food. So if you guys don't know, grocery store. Packing bags at the grocery store when I was like 12 years old. And
12?
Yeah, that was actually...
What was I doing at 12?
You can't officially get a check for that either because you couldn't work until you were 13 officially on the books in New York State. So
16.
Nah, it was like 13
back then. Okay.
I don't know what it is now, but you couldn't work officially until you was like 13. So I was packing bags at Key Food, grocery store, and I would pack the bags and load the cart and take the cart to the car. Very dangerous thing to do at the age of 12, 13 too.
Oh yeah, because somebody could just put you in a car?
Yeah, never thought about that.
I didn't think about that either until you just said.
Wow, I had a very dark childhood.
It wasn't dark.
Like some SVU stuff. Kid packing bags. But I always did it with one of my boys too. He was a big dude. So
they wasn't taking him?
To take him, you would have to be,
If they try to take him, they would have took themselves out? Okay.
Yeah. So, but also it made it more difficult for him to make money because you see a bigger dude. He's 12, 13, but he's a taller dude. So you kind of feel like, well, you don't need the money. You look like you're about 17, 18 anyway. So I was able to make money easily. And it wasn't much. It was like $1 max. That was like killing it if they gave you $1. But mostly it's like
$1 what?
$1 to take a bag.
Oh, to tip you. That was your tip.
That's a tip.
Okay, yeah.
Because the grocery store's not paying me money. You gotta.
Oh yeah, you just put the tip in the little. You have a little plastic jar.
I bought my own plastic jar. I asked them for a cup, or they just gave it to me in my hand.
Yeah.
I would ask them if they need help getting their groceries to their car.
I see that now.
I don't know if no, because the grocery stores actually do it themselves.
Yeah,
now.
that's what I see. I see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Usually they have more like the older vets or something, like people who have some disability. They're kind of doing it now, but. Yeah, back then, so I was packing bags because I knew in order for me to make more money, I had to start working. So that was my unofficial first job, packing bags. And one of the first things I did with my money was I bought a video game. So I packed bags for like a week. I was killing it. I made like $50 that week too.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money at 12.
You come home from school and you working for a couple hours, and then on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, you working there the whole day. And most people, when do they normally go into the grocery stores?
Yeah, on the weekend.
On the weekends. So I'm there from like 9 to like 3 o'clock or something like that.
So with the store, Key Food, the store, do you just walk in there and say, "Hey, I would like to pack bags," and they say, "Okay, stand there"?
Well, it depends. So that's a long time ago. So but back then it wasn't a problem until it wasn't a problem until like the manager would come out and say, "Hey, you can't do this" or something like that. Most of the time it was okay.
Okay. So did it depend on the cashier that was there that would allow you?
It wasn't about the cashier. It was about the manager that would come and just like, "Hey, you can't do this," or something like that. Most of the time it was okay, but I think it got more strict when more people started doing it. So I would come in and like somebody at my register was like, "What?
Not at your register. You don't have a register. You don't work there."
I definitely had a register at that point because I would go to the same one. So you come in, and when it got kind of got oversaturated, I guess. That's when it became a problem with the actual managers at the grocery store. It's like, well, you can't deal with this, or you got to leave. So, so that was it.
Okay, so that was your first few jobs, and then when would you say you got your first real job? I didn't get my first real job until junior year in college.
Okay,
would be my first real job, and that's when I got a car because I needed it for the job. Which was in my field. So when would you say you got your first job?
My first real job was when I turned 13 and I did summer youth.
Oh, so you're counting summer youth as a real job?
That's a real job.
Okay, so I did that in high school.
That was summer youth when I turned 13. So I was working in the projects, like cleaning up stuff like that.
Okay, I think you did say that. All right, and how long? So summer youth is just over the summer for 2 months or so. Or
it's just a summer job,
yeah.
And it's a thing that New York City does to kind of keep their youth off the streets, but also helping them earn money. Because most of the time, if you're not earning money, you're just chilling on the block.
Okay.
Yeah,
chilling in the house?
Or the house.
Or chilling in the house.
Doing something unproductive, I guess. So New York City wanted to give an incentive for people who...
Kids
to make more money.
Yeah.
And I think you could do it up to 18.
Yeah, but it's stretched out to like 21 at this point. Might be a little higher now. And you get a stipend, right? It was a stipend that you get?
No, it A check.
Oh no, it's check. Okay, I don't really remember. So I did that maybe once. You did that, and then you said you did it at 13 though.
Yeah, I was doing it at 13. We were cleaning up. Speaking of cleaning up, you guys don't know, we have a cleaning business university that teaches you how to start a 6-figure cleaning business without cleaning houses.
But here you were actually cleaning with a broom.
Yeah. This is us cleaning up, and it'll be in the show notes too, linked for our course. But this is actually us cleaning the projects. So we were doing packing up the trash, raking the leaves, all that stuff. And we did that Monday through Friday.
I did an office job at the FDNY in
well,
downtown
we
Brooklyn.
wasn't. That's the thing, because they drew you for jobs though, unless you knew somebody in the system.
Oh yeah, which I didn't. Yeah.
So they drew you for jobs, and the drawing is like you kind of pretty much a drawing. Like you put your name in a hat, and they pick you up, and they say
this is where
you're going. This is what you're gonna do. So I'm cleaning up at the age of 13 in the projects. Fort Greene was a dangerous project back then too.
It probably still is. Okay, so as a kid, you
got to go to the office.
I was in office, Metro Tech area, downtown Brooklyn. That's where I was when I. So
you got to work in the office while I'm in the heat cleaning up the city streets.
Yes. So that was.
So what was your experience working in the office? Like, what'd you do?
I don't remember exactly. My memory is always bad, but I just remember that I did work at FDNY. I did office work, and I was in high school at that point. That I do remember.
FDNY is Fire Department.
Of New York City. Sorry. Yeah, you never know who you're talking to. So I did that. I think for one summer. I don't believe I worked multiple summers.
You never went back?
No, I don't think so.
Oh wow, you just got your money and dipped.
What do I need to go back
to work another summer?
No. So growing up, for me, my mother used to ship, well, my cousins too. My mother and my aunts used to not ship us, but send us to Panama for the whole entire summer.
Like you guys are like, I don't know.
Cargo or something. Yeah, we used to go to Panama for the whole entire summer because that's where our family is from, and we are first generation Americans, me and my cousins. So we used to go to Panama the whole entire summer. So there's not many summers I was in Brooklyn, really, until I got older. You didn't have
the opportunity to work because you were traveling.
Yeah, because I was traveling. So until I got older, and I was like, I don't want to go for the whole summer, literally the whole summer. So school ended like June 28th in New York City is like the end date almost every single year. I don't even know if I would do 4th of July in New York. Yeah. And then I would come back just in time for the Labor Day parade, which school started. Labor Day is like Monday and school started Thursday.
Yeah.
So there wasn't many summers in New York.
Yeah, so you were going from like July to September.
Yep. I was going. So
you couldn't work.
No time for working. I was just traveling and having a good time in Panama.
I guess getting life skills out in Panama.
So that was... See, and so that I think played into or speaks about how I looked at money. Yeah. Because I'm like, when we go back to school and people are like, oh, what did you do for the summer? And people are like, oh, nothing, didn't travel, nothing. And I did this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I was over there for months. Or if I wasn't going to Panama, I was still traveling to other places, maybe Disney World, little trips to Virginia, whatever the case may be. I wasn't just home. So hearing that, it never made me, even though we grew up in the projects and that's supposed to be like low income, I never thought about it in the way that like, well, you don't have enough money to do these things.
Yeah.
Which I think is completely different from most people. And I also, with me being the only child, allowed for more. Because like I said, my mother got into the system through my uncle, but technically she went on to get her master's and become a teacher. So she gets paid probably higher than most people living in the projects.
So do you think that you being an only child, if you had siblings, you think that would have changed it for you?
I don't know, because I feel like when circumstances changes, you kind of make it work. Mm-hmm. So I feel like my mother would have adapted. I don't know if I would have felt any different. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment. She had one apartment. One room. Sorry, I had one room. If I had a sibling, we would just share the room.
Yeah.
I don't know where their stuff was going to fit, but
you said y'all would have adapted. So
I guess we would have had to make it work. Would I have looked at home differently, maybe in that,
or would you have looked at money differently? You think?
Money differently, probably. Because I probably wouldn't have been able to have all the luxury that I did have. Looking back, it's luxury. But when you're in it, you're like, well, I want to do this. I want to do that. Yeah. So it feels a little different.
Well, for me, with having 2 younger brothers, I think knowing that school was coming up. So let's say, like, all right, school's over. And I know we got to support 2 younger brothers. And they got to get their drip, as the young kids say as well.
Oh yeah, you used to be decked out.
they gotta get their stuff. So I had to make sure that I was able to still. I don't want to put a burden on my mom at that point either. So now I know we got 2 younger brothers. They also got to go to school. They also got to have supplies. So like, well, in order for me to keep the I guess the clothes or the stuff that I had to continue to work. So every summer I did summer youth for at least 2-3 summers.
You was milking them, huh? You was milking the city money.
yeah, I did summer youth for at least 2-3 summers. So I knew that in order for me to maintain my sneaker habit and my clothes habit, I had to continue to work. And so every summer I used to take that money and just stack it up until I could get a real job, which was like 15, 16 or something like that. But yeah, I worked for those summers. I knew that I didn't want to put that burden on my mom and my dad, so had to make sure I continue working.
And when would you say that you started to learn about money though? Like I know we've had experiences as a child, as we were saying, like we saw, that's how we started to see money. It's like, okay, you get allowance, and then now we're working in places. But do you feel like you started to learn about, like, when do you feel like you started to educate yourself about money? And I don't even know what educating yourself about money exactly means, but
yeah, I think educating yourself about money means different things
at different times.
So back then, like I said, when I saw the kids who had like, oh, I got $20, and it was like, well, it's Friday, and we going out to, let's say, we going to the store to get some chips or something, and you can't get chips because you don't got no more money. It's like, wait, you had $20, I only have $5, and I'm buying chips. I could buy a chip for me and for you. So now it's like, wait, you had more money than me, and I had less money, but now I got my money for the whole week, and you don't. So now I'm learning, all right, well, maybe you don't spend all your money in one day, or maybe you start changing the way you spend it, or you start varying, or you having varieties of different ways to spend your money. So I think that was the first instance of when I realized that the differences between money. That's not about amount. It's not about how much you have. It's about how much you keep. Right.
And then you also saying that you realized you had to work. In order to get money, you have to work.
Yeah, that was down the line. But back then, it was more about just saving your money.
Right. And like I said, I'm not sure when it started to hit me about that. But I started to look at, or I guess think about money in a different light when I saw like family member have houses.
Yeah.
I assumed that because they had bought a house, that they were rich. Is how I thought about it.
Why is that? Because you didn't have a house?
Because I didn't have a house.
Okay.
I mean, even though I never felt like I was poor.
Yeah.
I never felt poor, but they just felt, okay, maybe they were richer, you know. Yeah. I never considered myself rich either, but that was, and I also think that that's a societal thing as well. Yeah. People just assume if you have a home, you're making more than someone that lives in an apartment, which is not necessarily true. But as a kid, that's what I would think. That.
Well, it's definitely not true because we.
No, I know. I'm a living witness that that's not true. But I think that was a thought that I thought about as a kid as well. Just like family members that had a house, that they were well off.
I think usually. For me, it was the cars, because we didn't have much family that had houses. So,
okay.
But we had family who had dope cars, Mercedes Benzes and all. I mean, I think that was pretty much it, or BMW. But you see those cars and you're like, oh, what do they do for a living? They got to be making money. And at the end of the day, they really weren't. They just had nice cars. They decided to spend their money just on their car. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's funny, that's just a perception that we kind of had.
Yeah.
So
I think growing up in Brooklyn changes that too, because maybe growing up in Texas would have been a little bit different if we are talking about people in Texas. They're like, oh, you come to Texas, you have a house. Like that's the norm. But growing up in Brooklyn, standard. It wasn't the norm at all.
No,
it's more apartments than there are houses.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
even
not
now,
that much land out there either.
Even now, though,
yeah, that's true. It's definitely definitely different now.
Like to get a house is so expensive for what in New York City in general. So I don't think that part has changed. So that was my, I guess, thought on money. But bringing it to like young adulthood, which would be college. When I say I got my first real job, which is as a sophomore in college, and then I got a car. It was like,
what car you at?
I don't know what year that Central was, but the seatbelt was the type that, I don't know, when you turn the car on or close the door, that it was an automatic seatbelt.
Yeah, you close the door.
Close the door, and then you have the rolling windows. Yep. So my first car was not anything luxurious at all, but it was for me to work to get to point A to point B. And like I said, it was a job that was in my career, which I majored in psychology.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was a priority for my mother for me to get the car, essentially. But then then I think I had other conversations with, you start to, I think over time, you start to have this concept of who you think in your family handles money well or something like that. So the same uncle that had this store, he was always good in math and always quick with calculating things. And he always, like at school, I used to always have extra snacks. That just was back to the food. I always had extra snacks. And he's always like, instead of selling it, you need to instead of giving it away, you need to sell it. So he always had like that entrepreneurship mindset. Like my mother does things on the side that he always tells her for years, you need to charge money instead of doing it for free.
Even to this day.
To this day. So he was one person that I always, when I think back of like entrepreneurship or someone that knows about money, I think about him, or an aunt that we never had a conversation about money growing up, but she had a bank account for me, and always put money into it, even if whatever amount it was. I did not have access to it until we got married. I had access before then, but until we got married is when I actually touched it and transferred it over. So those were kind of like, as an adult, young adult, I would say in college, that's when I started those conversations or those thought processes.
Yeah, with me, it would be, even before college, I had my uncle, he had a house and a car. So
he was living large then.
I was like, he worked at the post office too. So he's actually might still be there, or might be retired at this point, or retiring. But I knew that I assumed he was good with money because he had the car and he had the house like early on in the game. So I was like, all right, well, he has his head on straight. That was my first recognition of someone that I feel like, all right, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in life. But when I went to college, I worked, I couldn't even tell you how many jobs I worked. As a young adult, I worked as a student assistant. I worked as a residential assistant. I pretty much did everything in college. So I always had money in college for the majority of the time because I always had a check coming in. And I always had a lot of money at one time too.
I got money from my parents in college.
Oh, there you go.
Because there was no financial aid because they said my parents made too much and they paid for my undergrad.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that was how my money came in. But we have friends that we joke about it now. I have friends that, on Thursdays was like Thirsty Thursday at college. And the next day they had to go to work in the Bronx or Brooklyn and you had to take the LIRRR. School was in Long Island. They would never miss a beat.
That's a train, LIRRR.
LIRRR. Oh, yeah, it's a train. They would never miss a beat when it came to work. They were up at like 7, 8 a.m., got to catch the bus, to take the train, and we used to be like, damn. But now looking back, they had to supply for siblings, or they had to they weren't getting money from parents and stuff like that, so it made sense. But then it was always just like a running joke, like, oh, you don't miss your job at all, like you always working, which it only was a weekend thing, mind you, because they are at school Monday through Thursday, and they will work the weekend and then come back.
So the thing about their relationship with money is that they know that if they don't make that money, their family's not getting that income.
Right.
Or their siblings or themselves, they can't survive off that money.
Right, exactly.
So with me in college, I knew that I had the money, but I wanted more of it. There was one conversation I had with one of my frat brothers, and he said we were doing something with an account, and it was like we were doing something for our frat, and it was like, yo, I was like, I got it. He's like, that's like $1,000. I was like, I got it. He's like, just like that. I was like, yeah. He's like, how do you have all this money? And I was like, oh, because I work all these jobs. And we started talking about the conversation. He was like, that is ridiculous.
$1,000 in college? That is mind blowing. Some people don't have $1,000 right now at 30.
35, 40 either.
Yeah, $1,000 in college is, if I was to see that, I would be like.
But it still goes back to that earlier conversation where it's like you could have all the money in the world, but if you're not saving it or doing something with it, then you're wasting it.
Yeah.
So like if I got 4 or 5 jobs and I always have a check coming in, that's when I got used to getting money coming in too. So I had a check coming in every single week from different jobs, whether it's $200 or $700. It was every single week coming in. Like one job I was getting like $50 a week or something like that because I wasn't doing it much, but I knew every week I had some sort of money coming in.
Cover money towards the bottle.
A bottle of Hennessy or something like that.
Because what are you buying in college?
Yeah, so I knew that every single week I had a check coming in. Now I'm not spending all of it. Probably 75% of it is getting saved. So when that big expense comes up, I'm like, oh, I got it or whatever it may be. And I bought my first car in cash.
Look at you. All right, brother.
That was a car that you didn't believe I had either, but that's another conversation.
Because you lied.
No, I didn't. How did I lie?
Okay, whatever. Another conversation. Fine then. But I
bought my car in cash because I saved that money. It was like a $4,000 car too. It wasn't nothing crazy.
That's enough. $4,000. That was right after college. Or were you still in college?
Yeah, okay. That was after college.
The conversation was you can't. I won't date you unless you have a car.
Mm-hmm. That was your relationship with money. You need to have a car.
Because I had a car. That's the thing. I had a car. So I asked for what I have. It wasn't like, oh, you need to have an apartment because I had no apartment. Yeah. It was simply just that. I'm going to be driving you around every time. That's the way I felt about it. But yeah, that's like money and dating. A little different. But no, actually all part of the same. So that was college. And then how do you bring it up to date now, relationship with money?
Oh, it's way different.
And what makes a difference? What is it now? What is that?
I still think that it goes back to that same principle, that same conversation where they had $20 and I had $5. And then even now, we're at the point where, like, even the checks we have coming in now, we're not spending all of them. Now we're thinking about how can we invest? How can we grow? How can we maintain a business? Where can we put this money so that it can be put to use versus going out and getting that new G-Wagon that you wanted or...
that I will get at some point in my life. What do you mean versus? So I think, money 5 years ago and money now is still different. Because 5 years ago is when 2017 is when we started our debt-free journey, right?
Yeah.
The way that
What's a debt-free journey, though? Huh? People may not know what a debt-free journey is.
Oh, well, it's when we started our journey to pay off our debt that we had, which included student loans, car loans and credit cards. That's all we had because we didn't have a house or anything like that. So those were the things that we paid off. Yeah. That was our debt-free journey. So at that time, our relationship with money was we weren't budgeting. We were spending, but not overspending. We still had enough money to pay all our bills and things that we wanted to do. Yep. But then when we started the debt-free journey, we started budgeting. We didn't use credit cards at all. So that's how like the relationship kind of changed. And we started to raise our income. We started to get more income. That was, I think, kind of like what you said when you realized that I need to work more if I want more money, right? I don't know if I feel exactly the same way now, but we'll get into that. But I need to work more if I want more money. So that's when we started side hustling like crazy, which was new for me because, like I said, I had my first real job until high school / sophomore in college.
And I had mine when I was 12. So
yeah, so I was not a workaholic ever. And I never thought I would be. It's like my one job and that's it. So that was a change of like all this extra income potential of like, wow, never thought that in my job I would ever make 6 figures, right? Yep. Or never, it just doesn't happen. I'm a mental health therapist. I mean, unless you have your own private practice, usually things like that, it's not a lucrative business, okay? Or a career.
We was talking about that too.
With who?
Private practice.
Oh yeah, we considered opening a franchise private practice. We just didn't do it. So many ideas. But so the relationship then and then what it is now is kind of like I'm not giving up my time for money. Like time is money. Yeah. Right. So we did things of like working at a gym, which required us to be there. And I did things of going into a private practice therapy office to do therapy, which required me to be there. But now I would do therapy. It's all remote. Even prior to COVID, it's like online and texting and things like that. So I don't got to leave my house. Yeah. It's still some time being spent, but not the same amount of time and energy as physically going somewhere.
And I think the pandemic changed a lot of people's views around being compensated for their time too. Yep. Mm-hmm. Because people don't want to go to the offices anymore. They don't want to sit around people that they don't like all day. They don't want to. They don't want people that they normally wouldn't be around all day. Yeah. And they want to figure out different ways to make money because they know that their time doesn't have to equate to them making money. I don't have to spend more time to make more money. So especially with us, I think as we kind of grew in this journey of financial freedom, that our relationship with money has changed dramatically because now our goal is no longer to to spend more time to make more money. Now our goal is how can we spend less time to make more money? Those levers start to change a little bit. You're spending time for more money. Now it's like, no, it doesn't have to be equal. You don't have to spend the same amount of time to make the same amount of money. Like I spoke about this in one of the other podcast episodes. Like we were able to make my whole monthly income from a few hours of doing online business. So I'm sitting at home on my couch. With your
dog.
Or with my dog, with my wife. So we're able to make affiliate income, which means that we're selling other people's products or services. We have our cleaning business. We have a physical cleaning business in Dallas. Then we also have our Cleaning Business University course. And then we have our consultations or things like that we're doing. So I was able to make our whole monthly income while sitting on the couch in a couple hours versus going to spend 40 hours every single week inside an office or traveling, getting ready for the office, doing
getting ready, traveling, eating is an hour plus before you even get in the office. That's time spent that you're not compensated for.
Exactly. You don't even get paid for that stuff. So, now the relationship has changed from trying to spend more time to make more money versus spending less time to make more money.
Right.
And that's the goal.
Right. And even for me now, I'm big on convenience. And so I may not have been that big on it before, but anything convenient is more money. I always say that. Anything convenient is more money. So anything that makes my life easier, I'm going to go for it. So
what's an example
the groceries being delivered.
We started doing that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we haven't. I still like go to the grocery stores because they get the orders wrong sometimes. But we started doing like Instacart like all the time. Like every Sunday we'll get the Instacart delivery coming to our door.
Right. Groceries being delivered. Hi, it's me. Makeup. So I get my makeup done, and I had a person that I was going to that I really loved really well, and then I found someone that I liked their work too, and they come to me. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I just got to pay extra $20 for the travel. Hi, it's me. I'm there. Yeah. I will get my hair braided shortly, and she said that she can come to the house. I think it's extra $30 or something like that. Hi, it's me. Convenience. I'm willing to pay for these things for convenience in my life so that I don't have to travel and spend the time to do that. So I look at money in that way, but I also, the difference that we have also is like, we have this conversation a lot about if the money is available, what's the discussion, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, let's just go with a number of $1,000. If we have $1,000 that we could spend, and I'm like, I'm going to buy these shoes. Let's just go with that. I'm going to buy these shoes. That's $575. His thing is like, $575? Yeah. What's the value on that? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it don't got to be any value. It don't have to be any value for me. It does not need to go up. It doesn't. For you, it does. And I'm like, but I don't see why we're discussing something that we can afford.
Well, for me, right? It's like it's not necessarily about the shoes. If you're buying shoes and it's just a gift for yourself, that's totally fine. But if it gets to the point where it becomes excessive spending, where you're spending $5,000 on shoes, and it's like, well, how about we spend $5,000 on an asset that could pay for those shoes down the line? Which we do. No, we don't do that all the time. But let's say we buy that asset where, let's say we want to buy a rental property and it cash flows us like $1,700 a month or something like that. Now that asset that you bought can buy the shoes every single month, month after month, year after year.
I don't need the asset buying me nothing because I got the money and the asset could wait. The thing about it kind of the conversation is like, it's always going to be, sometimes it will be like always like a tug of war, right? Of something. And it's like, you can just spend it, right? Which brings me to the question of like money fears. Like, what is your biggest money fear? Which I think contributes to the way you kind of react to spending.
Because I think I have fears and you don't have fears around money.
Yeah, I don't.
That's where the
what's your exact fear?
Where the real conversation comes in. If I have fears and you don't have fears in terms of money, but I don't have fears when it comes to entrepreneurship or business, and you have fears, you see how the misalignment. So
say specifically what the fear is.
The misalignment happens if one person is fearless and one person is fearful. There's a misalignment there. So I guess my biggest money fear is like money will not always be there. So why not use it now to create future income for us? So that, let's say worst case scenario that we can't work, but we have assets or we have things that produce income for us, whether it be assets or businesses or services, whatever it may be. So my biggest money fear is that it may not always be there.
And my thing is that we do that. We do that. I mean, sometimes we're saving 5 figures a month, literally.
Yeah.
5 figures a month we save. So for me, it's kind of like, how much more? Mind you, I am big, and he would say, like, we can't just have this money sitting here. Like, do you just like this money sitting in an account? I am big on,
what you do. That's another conversation too.
I am big on having the money
security
there, like looking, just like, okay, yeah, I have that money there. But he's big on like making it work for us, which I've been coming around to that a bit more of making it work for us, because I understand it's sitting there. Maybe let's just give numbers. In the bank is like 0.3%. If you make it work for you, you may get 3.5% return or like increase, whatever it happens, savings, whatever happens, right? So I totally understand that. But the conversation, like I said, is sometimes just that tug of war of like, all right, but what's the discussion? Like, so if Bora Bora is going to cost $10,000, it's going to cost $10,000. It is what it is. But I mean, because I enjoy traveling, it's an experience. I am all for spending for experiences. A day, 2 hours, and he'd be like, well, it's just a day, you know? So I don't think there's any right or wrong. Everybody has their different opinions on things. But that's something that we continue to discuss at least. And I've learned that, okay, if it's something that I really want, because to be quite honest, we really don't spend, I don't even know the percentage that we spend of what we actually make in. So we keep a lot of the money.
So that goes back to just our relationship with money. Is like you were never an overspender.
No.
And I was never an overspender. No. So now we have the ability to overspend if we wanted to.
Yes.
But just based on our upbringing.
With the G-Wagon, but go ahead.
we have the ability to overspend, but we just choose not to based on our upbringings.
Yeah. Yeah, but then it's like we have made a life for ourselves that's completely different from our upbringings, right?
Yeah.
So when do you become comfortable in that new life? Not that you're a new person, but just new trajectory, new, I don't know.
I think for me, it would have to be. It would have to be to the point. I don't think there would ever be a point where I'm comfortable. Like I'm like, and I don't think that's a bad thing either. Like you never be comfortable with where you are when it comes to money. So if I'm like, well, we still have the ability to make more money, earn more money. Let's do it as long as we can until we can't do it anymore, because there's gonna be people after us. There's gonna be kids. There's gonna be grandkids.
Yeah, I think that sometimes I think in the fact that like, yeah, we need to save, but we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Right, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if either of us will be here or either of us will be able to even continue to work.
I think they call that YOLO, as the young kids would say.
I'm not officially a YOLO person. Let's be very clear. I'm not just going to be all right, $4,000 today, don't worry, because I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
you only
that.
live today.
But at the end of the day, I think we still do everything that I put out there for us to do as a family. Because if it was up, you don't really come up with, like, the traveling thing is not your thing. Or if I say like, oh, let's do this or something, you would do it if it, after conversation. And like, that's what I was trying to say, that I've learned that just like planting the seed for you, the same way that you have to plant the seed for me with entrepreneurship, like, and probably coming back to it, just telling you in advance is a easier way for you to kind of grasp it. It's hard for him to just go to the mall and then spend $1,200 on a bag. But if I say 3 days before, hey, I want to go to the mall to get this bag at YSL, it's a little different for you. Which is, it's the same exact thing, but it's just going about it differently.
It comes back to just the way we grew up. So like, you grew up on traveling, right? You were traveling every single summer, and I wasn't
Jamaica,
traveling.
London, Panama.
I didn't travel anywhere growing up, so I never had a need for traveling, because like I never did it growing up. So now it's like, well, if I do it now, it's a luxury. It's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, the first time you left the country was 25, right?
Yeah, we went to Mexico.
You went to Mexico, yeah. The crazy.
I went to Florida before that.
That's not leaving the country.
I went to Florida. We went to like Disney World when I was younger. So that just goes back to our upbringing relationship around money. Like, we didn't have the funds to kind of travel like you guys did. So to me, traveling is a luxurious service and a luxurious experience. So it's like, well, I don't need to do that. And if it happens, fantastic. If it doesn't, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not. It's not the end of the world for me.
Okay. So you feel like those money fears will continue, and that's...
I wouldn't say the fears will continue. I think that it just changes as we grow in our relationship, in our family, and I think that like now, like I want to buy a Rolex. And if you say let's go buy the Rolex today, I'm going to buy the Rolex today. There's no fear in that.
First time ever,
There's
though.
no fear in that.
First time ever.
There's no fear in that.
When we paid off our debt, we each said we were gonna get our own little gift. I got a LV tote, Louis Vuitton tote. He said he was gonna get a bike,
a road bike.
A road bike.
Like
time came, didn't get it. So
that goes back to relationship with money. Now that was what. How many years ago was that?
We paid off, I think December 2018. About to be 3 years.
About to be 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
My mindset and our income has shifted dramatically over these last
3
3 years.
I agree.
So that same $900 road bike that I was going to buy, I was like, maybe I didn't want it that bad at the time. That could be it too.
You kept saying that you did, so I don't know. Who am I to measure?
Maybe I didn't. But that just shows you that the relationship with money has changed. So I'm willing to go drop $15,000, $20,000 on a watch, but I didn't want to spend $900 3 years ago on a bike. There you go. I'm making progress.
You are making. That's a big jump. Let's talk about that. That's a big jump from that.
That's. And you said you wanted. And then you said you wanted whatever bag it was, and I'm like, I'm not against you getting that bag. I just say, hey, is this an asset? Does it go up? You show me,
and it does go up, by the way. But even though it doesn't need to go up,
you show me the facts and figures. I was like, okay, maybe this could be an asset.
It doesn't need to go up for me.
Well, everything is going up right now.
That's true.
That's true. And inflation, so everything is going up.
Okay, you're right.
It's all up from here.
Anything else that you want to add when it comes to a relationship about money, and how do you continue to navigate that? Or
I just think that you always have to be mindful of it. Like I know my fears around it, so I try to do things that mitigate those fears. So I said I wanted this Rolex. We set the goal to be able to feel comfortable buying it. Now we hit the goal, and we said if we want to buy it or not, that's up to us. But then also, it's hard to not keep moving the goalpost too.
Oh, that's a whole. And I guess you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking, let's think about the basketball players. They may say, I want a championship ring.
Yeah.
They get the championship ring, and then you
want
more.
I want another one. Or I want MVP, or I want
MVP,
Defensive Player of the Year, or...
Yeah, it changes. The goal changes. But I think being mindful of that and still enjoying that moment when you reach the goal has been something that we have to be intentional about.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've said that one of our goals was making our income from our side hustles, right?
Yeah.
And we did that 2 years ago and kept it moving. No, like, okay, what's going to change? What are we going to do differently? Kept it moving. And so the goal does keep moving, but I think that's part of life. You keep striving for more.
Yeah.
You keep striving for more. And then but I think like, okay, when is more end? And I don't know. I don't know if we're there yet, because we're just starting. We're really just starting the entrepreneurship journey 3 to 4 years in.
Yeah.
But it's like, when does it end? I don't know.
But I think as we continue to grow, our relationships with money will continue to evolve depending on where we are. So we'll have kids, and we may say, well, you guys got to learn the value of $1, or we may say you guys can do whatever the hell you want to do with this money.
Well, so the conversation in regards to that is, I don't feel like I really had struggle, and I don't like struggle. I'm not one that feels like I need to struggle to appreciate something, because I think I have values and understanding, okay, that this is wrong and this is right.
Yeah.
So I don't plan to let my child struggle.
There you go. There you go.
I think understanding the value of $1 and struggle can be two different things.
Yeah.
But I don't think it needs to be like, I don't know. There's some stories that I hear, and I'm like, I don't know. That's not my life. So, and you want better for your children, so I don't think I will do that for my child. That's just a thought.
There you go. Well,
yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was about to wrap it up.
Oh no, I'm done. Go ahead. I was laughing.
So we appreciate you guys joining here on this episode of the Hartzog Hustle podcast. Again, my name is Anthony.
And I'm Janoka.
This episode was brought to you by Cleaning and Business University. If you guys are interested in running and starting your own 6-figure cleaning business without cleaning houses, make sure you check the link below. It will be somewhere in the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate you guys being here.
Okay.
Keep hustling. Peace.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of the Hartzog Hustle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. And follow Anthony and Janilka on Instagram at The Hartrimony. That's TheHartrimony. Keep hustling, baby. Keep hustling, baby.
Get that money. Get that money.